Art Rozendal was a devoted builder who worked tirelessly throughout the week to provide for his beloved family. He desired nothing more than to spend the weekend with his wife and children at O'Grady's Roadhouse, only 5 minutes from his house. He had no idea that destiny would interfere in the cruelest manner. Welcome to Viral Crimes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories. In 1982, at the age of 21, Art met Brenda Merrill. This 22-year-old lady had a profound impact on his life, and they dated for 3 years before getting married. Eventually, Brenda and Art had 2 sons together. Neil Rozendal was born 1 year after the couple's wedding, followed by Jordan Rozendal 3 years later. Art worked 5 days a week as a steelworker at Stelco. His colleagues characterized him as nice and quiet. In their home on Upper James Street in Hamilton, the Rozendals had a prosperous family life. They stayed together, particularly after Brenda was diagnosed with 2 brain aneurysms at age 31 in 1991. However, she was a warrior who endured this hardship. After Brenda recovered, Art, being a romantic, chose to renew his wedding vows with her. Brenda's new life was a source of appreciation for the coming years. Art worked tirelessly to clear his wife's medical debts while providing her with the best possible care. On weekends, he loved to relax at the Tavern O'Grady's Roadhouse after a week of strenuous work. Similarly, Art celebrated the conclusion of his night shift at Stelco on January 14, 2005. Brenda and Neil, both age-appropriate, accompanied him to the pub. She went to the dance floor after a round of drinks, while Art and his son played pool. Another table, beside their pool table, was occupied by a couple of noisy guys. Corey McLeod, 20, and Cairo Sparks, 23, were the 2 men. Corey and Cairo sat down after completing their game and started arguing loudly over who had won. They were teasing and gently striking one another, according to Art. He sent Neil home to ask Jordan to join in on the family night, seeing this as a signal to halt their pool game. He then danced with Brenda for a bit before heading to the pub's rear bathroom. She had no idea that would be the final time she saw her Art alive. When Cairo entered, Art was also in the restroom. He was reminded of his fight with Corey when he saw Cairo. At an attempt to mediate, Art proposed to Cairo that he and Corey end their dispute in the bar. Cairo was irritated by this uninvited advice and snarled at Art's arrogance. Cairo ambushed Art from behind as he emerged from the bathroom. Art jerked his head back to gaze at the assailant, frightened by the sudden attack. Instead, he received a punch to the face. Corey emerged in the corridor as Art collapsed to the ground. He went in to support Cairo, thinking it was a bar brawl, and they both pounded Art black and blue. Art cried out for aid, but his screams were drowned out by the loud club music. The assault was also masked from the rest of the bar by the hallway door. Art, on the other hand, was able to snatch Corey's chain off his neck, which would later prove to be a crucial clue in arresting Art's killers. After many kicks to the head, Cairo pushed Art to the ground with force, and he and Corey stamped on his back. It was the horrible ending to the life of an innocent man. When a random bar patron opened the hallway door, Cairo and Corey still had their foot on Art's back. Cairo threatened him as he stared there stunned. "You want some of this?" Cairo then shoved him aside and exited the bar. He rushed over to the patrons of the bar and yelled for assistance. Brenda got shivers when she heard about a guy who had been harmed in the restroom. Is it possible that her spouse, Art, hasn't returned? Is it possible that it was merely a fluke? She was horrified at the prospect of learning the truth. As she walked to the rear bathroom, her legs were shaking. She fell and passed out as soon as she saw Art lying lifeless on the floor, his body horribly battered. Several others at the bar contacted 911, prompting the cops to rush to the crime scene. After the murder, Cairo and Corey went straight to their girlfriend's apartment down the street. Before fleeing into the night, they dumped their shoes into a waste bag. Police searched the area for the killers after checking the crime location and interviewing the witness. Only Cairo was detained from the 2. He was wandering across the neighborhood as if he hadn't just murdered someone. Cairo resisted being handcuffed and assaulted the 2 cops, who tased him twice while he was in custody. Finding Corey, on the other hand, took longer. He'd watched Art's murder on the news and returned to Kitchener, his hometown, the following day by bus. He went there to surrender himself for a prior assault charge in Kitchener, figuring that Hamilton cops would never catch him. But he was mistaken, and he was soon back in Hamilton, jailed alongside Cairo. Despite Corey and Cairo's denials, police were able to gather enough evidence to convict them of second-degree murder. On the night of the murder, DNA swabs from drinking glasses connected the two guys to O'Grady's Roadhouse. Corey and Art's DNA was also found on Corey's neck chain, which was recovered at the murder site. The trash bag containing the killer's shoes was discovered at the girlfriend's residences. The skin on Art's back was wounded, and the treads on his shoes matched it. Despite the fact that all of the evidence led to second-degree murder, Corey and Cairo agreed to a plea deal with the prosecution and were convicted of manslaughter. They were sentenced to 11 years in jail, which allowed them to be released early in 2012. Brenda fought to overcome her anger that Corey and Cairo would be free to begin new lives, while Art remained buried at Woodland Cemetery. She said, "I'll never be who I was before. When Art died, a lot of me died." The prospect of living without her spouse in the family house on Upper James Street was too much to bear. So, 5 years after his death, she sold the property and relocated to a residence in Hamilton's East End. What happened to this family was an unimaginable tragedy. A night of fun with the family should not end up in murder. My condolences to Art's friends and family. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.